Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in our Talks with Walt, as we are calling our reading of the deathbed edition of Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman. We now turn to Song of Myself, which is, of course, in many ways, the high moment of Leaves of Grass. All 52 separate poems we're going to look at in the same way that we have already at learnstrong.net, down that left-hand side in the folder list that says Talks with Walt. We've already given a set of introductory comments to Whitman, and then as well we've worked with the inscriptions, 24 poems, and we have finished now with the 19 sections of starting from Paumanok. Now I know there are some readers of Leaves of Grass who like to say, look, I just kind of skip all of that early stuff. I go right to the heart of the matter. I mean, dude, you're the one that says it's the heart of Leaves of Grass, and I jump right in. You can do that, but as we will say about our learning theory, requiring a bit of prior knowledge will often help us. I really do want to exhort you that if you have joined our lectures now for Song of Myself and you have no background information of what we've shared regarding inscriptions and starting from Paumanok, I really do suggest that you take some time, go and do that annotative reading, and then come back to pick up with us here. Now, because I'm not going to go through these assumptions for every one of our lectures of Song of Myself, all 52 sections, I want to simply articulate now and review now what it is that we'll try to accomplish in each one of these separate treatments of each of the 52 sections of Song of Myself. First of all, we always want to emphasize our learning theory. That is to say, we're always interested in that attempt to try to connect new information to old information in meaningful ways. I mean, hear what we've just said about reading the 24 inscription poems and the 19 sections of starting from Paumanok. That is all information that will help us going forward. And guys, I'm going to try and really fight the temptation to every time I see some ability to make references to those early 24 poems of inscriptions and then obviously the 19 sections of starting from Paumanok, I'm going to try and fight that temptation to not do that too much, because it's so incredible how so much of what has come before will help us to be able to read Song of Myself. Of course, another way for us to say this is the new is the new. We studied this several times. We saw this several times in our study with the starting from Paumanok poems. That is to say, the NEW is the KNEW. Whitman was acutely aware of how everything is kind of cyclical, and we will see this throughout our study of Song of Myself. Now again, just to review our annotative approach, the way we will approach the reading, we're always asking three guiding questions. At level 1, what does the text say? At level 2, what does the text mean? And at level 3, how can I relate to the text in some way? At level 1, what does the text say? We're simply trying to summarize. At level 2, what does the text mean? At 2A, themes, messages, and at 2B, rhetorical techniques. That is to say, Whitman is poet. What is it that, not what he says, but how he says it that's so significant? We've seen a lot of the techniques of Whitman already. They will come to fruition in large measure now during Song of Myself. And then finally at level 3, how can I relate to this information in some meaningful way? At 3A, how can I relate to other texts that I know? Obviously we're going to start, first of all, with the 24 inscription poems and the 19 sections of Paumanok, and then obviously any other previous section of Song of Myself, and obviously other kinds of poems within Leaves of Grass, and then everything else as well. I mean, we treat with inclusivity all of the texts that we'll be working with and talking about. Obviously, we're going to ask about some of these classic texts of AP that we're always talking about. And then finally, and most importantly for our learning theory of 3B, we'll ask the simple question, how can I relate to this information in some meaningful way? A number of you are reporting now that you've worked through the 24 poems of inscriptions, the 19 poems of starting from Paumanok, and you're starting to feel already like you can kind of own a certain understanding of Leaves of Grass that you maybe didn't have before. At level 3B, I'm always going to challenge you. How can you relate to this information in some personal way so that when you walk away from the section of Song of Myself, you have some powerful sense of a way to hold on to something that you hopefully learned? Now as well, we will assume a knowledge of what we call our Big Five in 303. And what do we mean by that? We're always asking about at least 5 key elements as we look at a text. What does the text say about epistemology? That is to say, what can you know? Your theory of knowledge either will be predicated on an assumption that absolutism, I am right, you're wrong, or it's complete opposite, the relativist position, there is no absolute, there is no truth, which of course starts to sound like an absolute or a truth, what we'll call the performative contradiction, which epistemologically puts us somewhere else. I mean, in the middle, what we'll call the fallibilist position. This is a Whitman-esque position, and it says about knowledge, I think I'm right, but I could be wrong. It's that I could be wrong part that's so important for us in our study of the poem. So, for example, we're not interested in just picking up these poems and deciding whether we like them or we don't like them. That's obviously silly and immature and sophomoric. We're rather trying to understand how it works as it relates to issues of epistemology. Number two, what does the text say about ontology, the study of being, and who we are? Now, this is going to get really interesting really quickly because there's so many different Walt Whitmans in Song of Myself. And so we're going to be playing games with which Whitman are we talking about. We'll get to that here in a bit as well. Our third of the big five is psychology. What does the text say about the study of the individual mind, our fears, our motivations, our concerns, our drives? And then our fourth of the big five is sociology, not the study of the individual mind, but the study of the collective mind. See, Whitman, as we've already said many times in our study up to this point, dances, and I think that's the right verb, between on the one hand the celebration of the individual, and on the other hand the celebration of a bunch of individuals who get together and decide to call themselves a nation. Very interesting. Finally, and maybe most importantly in our study of Song of Myself, certainly many students have said after reading the 24 inscription poems and then all 19 sections closely of starting from Paumanok, that the question of theodicy, theo, God, dike, the Greek etymology for justice, the explanation of pain, suffering, that's theodicy, and of course we know this because of our study of texts like Milton's Paradise Lost, right, where we've done a close analysis of all of those different books of Paradise Lost. To justify the ways of God to man is the way that Milton says it, of course. For Whitman, it's going to be, there's a lot of bad stuff that happens in our lives, a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. How can we learn from that information so that when it comes time for bad things to happen, we don't ask, why did this happen to me? But rather we learn to ask, why did this happen for me? And that's an important change of wording. Finally, as we look at Walt Whitman, we'll look at the 5 P's, as we're calling it, just as a mnemonic to help us remember it. Whitman as person, right? Obviously, he is a historical figure. Whitman as poet, that is to say, he didn't start out to want to be a poet. He started out hoping for a whole lot of other kinds of lives, and then poet finally is his voice. Whitman as pedagogue, that is to say, teacher. He starts out as a teacher, even though he himself had a very, very small amount of formal education. He is self-taught, and that self-taught is going to allow him to be the teacher and to have the teacher's voice. Now, in Song of Myself, we'll see this pedagogic voice most powerfully in passage 46, 47. Many of our students in 303 will argue that's the real heart of Song of Myself, passage 46, 47. But we don't want to throw away 48 in the moment that we start naming 3 sections out of the 52. Why don't we just go ahead and just say they're all really, really important, as we found in our study of Paumanok. We're also going to look at Whitman as politician and his love of democracy. Remember that he said back in Paumanok that there were 3 essentials to Leaves of Grass. He said them in order, remember. He said that it's always going to be about love, always first, then democracy, what we're speaking of here, and then finally religion. And then finally we'll want to see Whitman as philosopher, just to mention that obviously first and the last of those 3. That is to say, from the pre-Socratics and obviously his adoration of Socrates, and then on, obviously, through the philosophic tradition that he knew a lot about, and we're going to see this a lot in our study of Song of Myself, culminating, of course, with his contemporaries, especially Ralph Waldo Emerson. And we've given full lectures on so many Emerson essays. I'm assuming that you've kind of followed some of our stuff there, as well as our stuff on Thoreau's Walden, where we've given guided lectures on each section of Walden. Bringing all that knowledge to this study will obviously help us immensely. So now let's turn to a brief introduction of the 52 sections of Song of Myself. And as we've done a number of times before, we're going to begin now with our Norton Critical Edition. And what is it that Norton's has to tell us about Song of Myself? Well, the first thing it says is that this poem was untitled and unsectioned in 1855. and it occupied more than half of the first edition of Leaves of Grass. In the 1856 edition, it was titled Poem of Walt Whitman, an American. In the 1860 and succeeding editions, it was simply titled Walt Whitman, until in 1881, it became Song of Myself. As the variant readings indicate, its evolution beginning in the notebooks of 1847 to 1848 and continuing with many revisions through 7 editions was not complete until 1881, although the poet never altered the poem fundamentally, restricting himself to changes in diction and rhythm. Song of Myself is essentially the epitome of the poet's haughty song. We heard that phrase, of course, in Paumanok. Sure in its intent, and what to early commentators seemed a kind of chaos of poetic exuberance is now recognized as deliberate structure. Perhaps an early modern example of the method of free association, to use the Freudian phrase, but artful and controlled in its reporting of what comes into awareness. The movement, this is key, of Song of Myself is circular rather than progressive, returning upon itself in invocation of ecstasy and confusion, of identification and recognition, of rapturous union with earth and spirit, truly a celebration both personal and universal. Now that's, I think, a great way to kind of summarize what it is we're looking at. I want to emphasize the circular nature. Okay, now this will take us obviously back to our study with, among other Romantic writers, Blake and Songs of Innocence, Songs of Experience. Go back and look at those lectures that we have at learnstrong.net. The whole concept of the Taoist notion of yin-yang and that idea that it's all about circles. It's all about we move from spring to summer to winter and then back to spring again. Again, like we said in our study of Paumanok, Shelley's Ode to the West Wind, very influential on Whitman. If winter come, can spring be far behind. Now, just to prove what it is that we just read is true, and I'm not going to do this a lot, but let's play the game really quickly of the opening lines, what we'll call section 1 of Song of Myself. Now, if you pick up the 1855 edition, when it first was published, this is how it read. I celebrate myself, and what I assume you shall assume. For every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you. I loaf and invite my soul, I lean and loaf at my ease, then there's an ellipsis, observing a spear of summer grass. By 1881, that passage will have expanded to, I celebrate myself and sing myself, and what I assume you shall assume, for every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you. And you immediately identify the third line being added. I loaf and invite my soul. I lean and loaf at my ease, observing a spear of summer grass. My tongue, every atom of my blood, formed from this soil, this air, born here of parents, born here from parents the same, and their parents the same. I, now 37 years old, in perfect health begin, hoping to cease not till death. Creeds and schools in abeyance, retiring back a while suffice that what they are but never forgotten. I harbor for good or bad, I permit to speak at every hazard, nature without check, with original energy. And of course the fact that the Deathbed Edition, Song of Myself, passage 1 will finish with the word energy, there's a whole lot to be said for that. And when we come back to Exegete, passage number 1, we will talk about the energy of Song of Myself. Of course, if you've been reading already, we've commented so many times, that's why we read Paumanok. The energy is intense. I mean, that last 19th section, how many O's were there? It was an ecstasy of reading as he finished that poem. All right, what's our approach here? Well, for each of these, I really am going to exhort you, especially if you've been with me through the 24 passages of inscriptions and the 19 sections of Paumanok. I really am going to challenge you. Pick it up, read it on your own. I'm hoping that you have your own copy of the Deathbed Edition of Leaves of Grass. Annotate it up on your own, and then come to me as kind of a guide or somebody who's going to throw some other ideas at you. In other words, allow me to be your Virgil to your Dante the Pilgrim. In other words, let me help you, guide you, after you've tried to figure it out and work through it on your own. If you have been with me for all the earlier lectures, you have enough tools now to be able to sit down with Song of Myself and to be able to work through it. And you will begin to go, wait, I think he actually said this almost verbatim in Paumanok, or back in one of the 24 poems of inscriptions. I'm going to flip back really quickly and see if I can find that. And you're going to begin to hear what we said in our study of both inscriptions as well as especially Paumanok, the word echoes. And that will immediately make us think of our study of Burnt Norton, T.S. Eliot's first poem in four quartets. My words echo thus in your mind. But to what purpose? Disturbing the dust on a bowl of rose leaves. I do not know. Other echoes shall follow. Right? So that idea of the echo is central to our study, of course, of what we'll do here. Right? And finally, if the passage isn't too long, I'm hoping that I can read the passage in its entirety, as I, for example, will do with passage number 1, and then we'll come back to try and annotate and exegete, again, line by line, word by word, ultimately, I hope, thought by thought. Okay? So what metaphor does one use? Well, in Song of Myself and in Leaves of Grass, Whitman loves two primary metaphors. He loves walking and he loves swimming or sailing, something having to do with water. So pick your metaphor and let's get ready to come back. I wish you the best of luck now as we get ready to fare forward, to quote T.S. Eliot in the Bhagavad Gita. Thank you.